Brought to you by the miraculous powers of Borg Pixie Dust. It's Feed Your Please, a hateful voyage to the Delta Quadrant. My name is Joseph.
And I am your co-host, Peter.
We have begun our journey into Season 5, my pedigree chum. We're sampling the delights of the showrunner, Brendan Braga. And to that end, what episode did we watch?
Season 5, Episode 2, Drone. Welcome back to the world of the good microphone, though, I need to point out. That was a very rough Season 4 rip and Season 5, Episode 1 night. So it's good to hear you back.
I did not enjoy using that headset either. It was my wife's headset. She was kind enough to let me borrow it. Definitely created a claustrophobic feeling, but thank God for Amazon. Even in the middle of a pandemic, they'll send you that $5 cable.
Mm-hmm.
No questions asked. Gotta love it. I wonder what the fucking the vig on that was. Like, how much did it cost them to get this thing?
I could tell you all sorts of stories about the USB cable. That's what I forged my empire on when I used to work for CompUSA. But nobody's here to hear about old late 2000s computer retail. They want to hear about Star Trek. We open up with this episode and we got Jerry Ryan hanging out in her little Borg alcove, and she's got some piece of reflective material and she is practicing her smile. And folks, you heard it here first. Jerry Ryan has an amazing smile.
It's breaking news. Wow. Man, are you telling me that something about Jerry Ryan is attractive? I don't buy it at all.
I've never watched anything with Jerry Ryan other than Star Trek Voyager and unfortunately Picard. This is realistically the first time I've ever seen her smile, because they've gone to great lengths to keep her dour and stoic at all times. So seeing her with this huge, awesome smile is totally out of character and jarring. I mean, obviously she's a beautiful woman, but she has sold this stoic robot act so well that to see her in such a completely natural human pose with a very professional smile was really something to see in the episode. It doesn't last long, though.
I do have one note here. You said you've never seen Jerry Ryan in anything except Star Trek related things?
To my knowledge, yeah.
May I recommend the cinematic classic Dracula 2000?
Oh, Joe. I don't know if I will allow you to make that recommendation.
Oh, it is worth it's worth the investment. It's worth the time. It's worth the effort. It features Jerry Ryan in it. She smiles in it, among other things. And I think you, as a connoisseur of cheese, of things that are so bad they're good, and huge tracts of land, would be a big fan of this film.
Speaking of crappy B movies, we discussed during Hopes and Fears Ray Wise and his role of Douglas MacArthur in a little known movie called FDR American Badass.
Yes, which I looked up the trailer to after our discussion, by the way.
I started watching it and it is so bad but so fucking awesome, and whoever the guy they have playing FDR is just sells the hell out of it nonstop, so I would recommend it. It's pretty good. Back to this piece of shit episode.
Oh, hey, there it is. We
Spoiler.
didn't actually talk about how we like if we like this one or not.
Spoiler alert, I fucking hated it. She's in there practicing her smile, and the doctor comes walking into the cargo bay and catches her, kind of. She gets all butthurt because she just got outed trying to be happy, and they have some back and forth, and we find out that there is an exciting new nebula that is about to form, and it's going to be dangerous as hell. So of course Voyager has come to a complete stop and is hanging out right on the cusp of the edge of getting fucked up, and they're going to send out a death cart to go observe this thing.
In fact, their least capable death cart. That's their Type 2 death cart. That's what they send.
Okay, so well, before we get into what is and isn't great about the Type 2s, we've got a real moment in Star Trek history here where the Doctor says he wants to take a future space picture and pulls out this fucking camera that is like twice as big as any Polaroid your grandpa had. It's always funny to see technology that becomes fully realized in the year, I don't know, 2008. Digital cameras and what they thought it would be and just how preposterous and big it is. But Seven's not excited about it. The Doctor is hella excited about it. And soon we find the Doctor, Seven, B'Elanna, and Paris in this Type 2 shuttlecraft speeding off for the Nexus. And we find out about Type 2 claustrophobia. I'm sorry, Class 2 claustrophobia.
Yeah, the little anecdote that gets shared is that in the academy they would put cadets in them by the half dozen and would stank like a used gym sock after you opened it up afterwards. It serves as basically a bridge to them discussing building a shuttle, which I imagine you've heard of the Delta Flyer.
Delta Flyer, right. And yeah, I thought that was some cool foreshadowing. Yeah. Again, anytime Voyager lays groundwork or Voyager goes back and discusses its own history, I'm interested in it. I
will point out that Ron Moore stole this idea for Battlestar Galactica when he did those episodes about the Blackbird fighter that the fleet creates, kind of in the middle of, I want to say, like season 2. It's like the Battlestar Galactica version of Voyager creating the Delta Flyer, but
this is not a bad opening, and like so many other Voyager episodes, the little background slice of life moment is where all the meat is on the bone that I'm interested in eating. These Type 2s, we've talked about the continuity of shuttlecraft and that other stuff. There's some Type 6s, which we know very well from Next Gen. And then these Type 2s, which are the newer Starfleet design language, kind of the First Contact era looking angles and stuff. So I thought it was interesting that B'Elanna was discussing what was like in the Starfleet Academy to be dealing with these things, and just where her Starfleet career would have actually fit in if she would have been a cadet post All Good Things during it, or how that timeline works exactly.
You know what? Let's see here. She began at Starfleet Academy in 2366. So in the timeline, that would have been, looks like the beginning of season 3 of TNG.
What?
Yes. So 2366 is, yeah. So Beverly Crusher returns to the Enterprise D. Geordi is promoted to lieutenant commander. Worf is promoted to lieutenant. Yep, that's season 3. So that is when she started at Starfleet Academy, and looks like she bounced out in her third year, so 2370. So she would have been out around season 6 of TNG. So that would have been like season 3-ish of DS9, season 2.
I think, and obviously they couldn't really do it because they hadn't had it yet, but if there was somewhere in Voyager, like, or any of the Star Trek properties, like, where were you at when you heard about 9/11? Where were you at when you heard about Wolf 357? What kind of impact, Wolf 359, what impact did that have on your Starfleet career following after that? And I guess to a certain extent, well, not to a certain, to a high degree of that, we saw it in Picard with First Contact, stupid synth uprising, whatever. But it would have been interesting when you start looking how these characters' lives stack up. So yeah, they're in this Type 2. And one last thing about the Type 2, because this is so much more fascinating than this bogus ass Borg we're going to get into. if you're going to put 6 Starfleet cadets on a Type 2 shuttlecraft, which you see the full extent of in one camera shot for up to a week, where's the bathroom, Joe?
It's the bottles that are in the rear compartment. That's what
Gatorade bottles.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Some technology doesn't necessarily improve in the 24th century.
Do they have like a little, like a tube that you use when you're at the banking, at the bank teller, and like you just put your bottle in there, it just shoots it out the side of the ship?
It's a very futuristic looking Gatorade bottle.
Is it precision transporter, and they just beam the piss out of you? I mean,
we get to see an inside of a Starfleet bathroom in this episode, actually. So, you know.
Do we?
Yeah. With the gratuitous B'Elanna taking her clothes off scene.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Let's move forward. Okay. So the surprise, apparently deciding to go and stick your dick into a proto-nebula mashed potatoes results in bad times for everybody. And the crew that are on this particular shuttlecraft, which is Tom, B'Elanna, the Doctor, and 7 of 9, have to be emergency beamed off. And the premium jabroni that they have working the transporter, apparently Ensign Mulcahy, yeah. He's not good at getting the lock on the patterns, so you know the soul's starting to flicker as he's trying to get everything ironed out, and but he eventually pulls him in, but the Doc's mobile emitter starts to be on the fritz, and I guess what you'd call our momentary B plot is him being just like a real nervous Nancy about like where his mobile emitter is, like his security blanket, like, please fix it. Is everything okay? I don't want to be locked into my hellscape of a sick bay anymore.
It's funny that Voyager is so predictable and formulaic that anytime you have a background, a non-main cast member part of the crew say more than one thing, you're like, okay, well, this guy's a big deal. What kind of nonsense are they going to get into? Who's going to cut this person's face off and wear it like a mask? R.I.P. Ensign Fred Durst. R.I.P. Well, I guess Mulcahy lives through this, but it's just like, all right, this guy's going to be a big deal. I'm going to keep both eyes on him. Standard fare for the Doctor. What was the last time his emitter went offline? And it was after Kess left, and then he had to like really rely on 7 of 9 because he couldn't get. Oh, it was god awful fucking
1. Yeah.
1?
Yeah.
Which one was? No. When the thing went offline, he was stuck in there. It was Concerning Flight.
Oh, okay, yeah. Concerning Flight, he lost it because the Da Vinci hologram had it.
Yeah.
But like in 1, it was failing, so he couldn't leave sickbay. And 7 of 9 had to. So they were both episodes where the mobile emitter not working. Can we take a moment to reflect on the fact that it's now officially stupid as hell that Voyager just doesn't have holo emitters installed in every major area? Because we already know they can build out a whole shit ton of holo emitters on the ship and still have it function because of the Killing Game. You know, like, so what prevents them from having some holo emitters and engineering it on the bridge and in the conference room or wherever, like, key areas, so the Doctor can kind of zip.
You can synthesize 150 cryostasis chambers, but you can't make a couple holo emitters. I also want to go back, something I want to say is one of my weakest shit award entries for the season 4 rip was there's only one fucking Doctor on this ship. You've got 150 people. You've got holodecks. You could be going to holodeck college. And still there's only one fucking person who can deliver a baby or I don't know, fix maybe Parcheesi Square's injuries, provided it's not his daughter. The risk management is so bad out of Janeway. Like, we're going to have all our eggs in one basket. And we're going to put him out in a death cart as much as we possibly can. as soon as we get the ability to.
To be fair, they were training a secondary doctor. It just happened to be a mayfly who turned into Goku and hit Super Saiyan. So they were training a backup physician. She just happened to have super psychic mind powers and evolved into another plane of existence. I can't blame her. Like, how do you see that coming?
How many doctors would you say would be reasonable for a ship stuck in the middle of the danger zone with 150 people on it? I would say 3 doctors. Regardless, put some fucking holometers up, train some other doctors, do both. I mean, God forbid COVID-19 got loose on that ship. It would be so bad.
They'd be fucked.
No toilet paper and no doctors. So a bunch of other the other highlight of the episode, like you noted, is the doctor getting all over B'Elanna's case. She had taken the holometer and put it in one of the science labs, and in classic cringe TV, the second they turn their back and walk out, terrible CGI Borgish tentacles start shooting out of the holo emitter and jamming into the LCAR's, digital black panels and assimilating it. It's like so cliche, whatever. But doctor's all up in B'Elanna's business at like 6 a.m. on the dot. And we get some excellent insight into the expanded world of the lack of Starfleet privacy. Not only can you not lock your doors, but there's like some straight up Spaceball shit going on. The doctor doesn't ring the phone. He just appears on B'Elanna's view screen like, hey, get up and fix me. And fuck you. Also, you made me have to watch my daughter die. I got no sympathy for you. And she's like, hey, get off my nuts. Today's my day off. I get to sleep in. And then he forces the video signal to go into her bathroom, as you pointed out before. As she's undressing, she's like, hey, get out of my space. And he's like, listen, I already saw them titties. NBD.
That's literally his excuse. Like, whatever, I've seen him before. I'm a doctor. That doesn't, so, like, bruh. Like, how is this possible? Like, is personal privacy just not a thing in the 24th century? I think it is, right? Because people's doors are locked sometimes when they
never. One time, there's only one time ever a door is locked. It's Harry Kim when he's having his little nightmare during the Chakotay Dream Warrior episode, and Janeway has to force her way in.
But she's got like B'Elanna chilling in her nightgown, like, just please no, turns the thing off. But yeah, he just like pops into the bathroom, no fucks given whatsoever. It obviously disturbs B'Elanna, so I do think that like this is supposed to be fucked up and not something that like is common in the 24th century. This is just the doctor just being that butthurt over not having his mobile emitter. And, also, it allowed Roxanne Dawson to demonstrate, yes, I have lost all of that baby weight.
And I'm looking great. Thank you for asking.
Yeah.
So then we switch over to Timmy Dipshit Ensign Mulcahy, who...
Oh, hold on. We're not to Timmy Dipshit Ensign Mulcahy yet. We get a spectacular checkup on the bridge where we find out Ensign Kim has actually been like in command of the vessel on the night shift somewhat recently. He's he's chilling in the captain's chair when Chakotay comes to relieve him, and he's like, I had to change direction on the ship like 11 times, and I've done all these sensor sweeps, and he's like feeling himself a little bit, he's had that first taste of authority, and his boss is like, good job, little buddy. I'm gonna muss your hair a little bit. You did it.
Well, this isn't the first time we've seen him sitting in charge. Previous episode, which was Night, we had Harry Kim holding down the bridge solo for extended stints. So, he's been around. I do think it's hilarious that there is this entire scene basically dedicated to, look at me, I got leadership skills I'm developing. I'm, command track. maybe I might be getting a promotion this season, but absolutely we all know that I'm not, and I'm going to be an ensign forever. And this seems like a real cruel joke, basically. He also
And
points out that this nebula is dangerous as fuck, and why is Voyager just chilling out looking at a goddamn nebula that could crush it like a beer can? Who knows? It's Voyager. It wouldn't be Voyager unless they did hang out there needlessly.
They did a quick. The next scene is Ensign Jabroni going into the Clear trap, and for some reason not in any way, shape, or form alerting anybody to what's going on. Instead, just is like, I think I want to get my face close to this horror show as I possibly can before alerting anyone in the crew of what's going on. That scene.
So Timmy dipshit Ensign Mulcahy goes to report to work, and not only does he work in the transporter room, but apparently he also works in the science lab. And when you speak lines on Voyager, you get all the jobs. So he opens up. All we see is all the walls and the doors bathed in green light, along with Timmy dipshit. And he's like, wow, what's this? Looking at what we will later turn around and see is super obviously a fucking big Borg power node, right? And here's a very frustrating part of this episode is where does Voyager crew fit on the I care about Borg at this point? Like prior to Unity, I would say that Voyager should be on the same wavelength with the rest of Starfleet, and that is scared shitless at all things Borg related, right? The Borg are the ultimate bad guy that have brought the Federation to its knees on several occasions, and being assimilated is a fate worse than death. And I would think that if you saw a Borg infestation, like you said, it's call Tuvok, call the captain, call B'Elanna, not walk in there with a curious twinkle in your eye until you get stabbed in the fucking neck, which is what happens.
It's insane. Like, you are part of Death Ship Voyager. You've been on this crew for more than 4 years, dodging all manner of danger along the way, and you walk into this room and you see clear Borg shit happening, right? Like, you don't have to be an expert in the collective to be like, I know that green glow wherever I fucking see it. Hey, everybody, we got a fucking problem down here, because it wasn't like this when I left it. So
hey,
this is weird.
7 of 9 has gone rogue again and is assimilating the ship, because it's happened like 3 times at this point. This is really dangerous. I need help. But whatever. He wanders in there. He gets zapped in the fucking neck. And we get a hop, skip, and a jump ahead to reported Borg signals. I believe it starts with 7 of 9, her proximity locator or some sort of Borg doodad inside of her, detecting other Borg presence. So she calls up to the bridge, or I think maybe she goes up there and tells Chakotay, hey, listen, I'm getting reports from my Borg parts that there's other Borg in the area. And Chakotay, taking a page out of Timmy Dipshit's books, like, well, we'll look into it, but we're not going to tell the captain, because who cares about the Borg? We've been there. We've done that. We don't care. Harry chimes in with some stuff about, they can't be in the nebula because that nebula is so nebulous, it would crush a Borg cube. And it's like, okay, Harry, since when did you become an expert on what the Borg can and can't? Was this a byproduct of you getting your ass kicked by species 8472 and almost dying?
All the weaknesses. You just got it downloaded. Yeah.
Whatever. And they find out, hey, there's some funny power fluctuations in the science bay, and once you know it, that's where the doctor's holometer is, and send a security team, and we're gonna go check it out. Blah blah blah.
Eventually, the inevitable happens, and we get the reveal that, hey, look, some real Borg shit has happened down here, and it's like this metal box that is in the middle where the science station used to be. Ensign Jabroni is on the ground, where he deserves, in pain. He has no more words the rest of this episode. He is carted off to sickbay, never to be seen again. Hopefully just flushed out the airlock. Like, we just can't handle someone that doesn't tell us that this is what's happening. And what the episode conveys is that this is a Borg maturation chamber, and there is a Borg baby inside. This baby has been formed from DNA, jabroni DNA, has combined with Borg pixie dust and the mobile emitter
29th century technology
to make a super Borg baby. And they figured this out, I think, just kind of basically in the one scene, right? They're doing all the scans, then they go to astrometrics and they're like doing extra scans, and they put it all together pretty quick. Like,
and they find out
the transport's an accident, put the Amanda probes on the thing, and then it started doing wild Borg shit.
And we find out that the baby is going to be born in a matter of hours. So on top of everything else, we're getting heavy retread off of the TNG episode The Child, which is when Deanna Troi gets pregnant by some celestial entity, and it super matures, and it's going to go through all the same growing pains that this thing does. We get some terrible CGI scenes of the baby growing up in the maturation chamber. And eventually we parade in the complete fucking idiot that will be portraying Catherine Janeway this episode.
Oh, yeah. She made a real fucking triumphant return, didn't she?
It's Catherine Janeway's quarters is just a series of tubes filled like Bacta tanks with different clones floating in it. And some of the clones are like super smart and great captains, and there's like inbred clones that are just complete fucking morons. And that's one of those that gets hatched out for this one. We did the season 4 rip, and I praised the fact that Catherine Janeway is not infallible and that she has some very human, grounded flaws, and that I appreciate those. But this goes beyond that. This is the two-dimensionally stupid Catherine Janeway that just ignores all common sense. And it's just
let's cut to the heart of the matter. There is zero rationale. There is zero reason that would be objectively acceptable under any circumstance to let what you know to be a hyper-advanced Borg drone to come to fruition in your ship, knowing it could just immediately kill you all. And on top of that, possibly endanger all life in the entirety of the galaxy by improving the Borg with its technology, right? Like, that's what we're talking about. Like, that, there is no rationale for this. This is the Hugh question times a million. Like, the whole Hugh thing was they wanted to turn him into a weapon. He kind of started to regain his personality, and Picard balked at sending him in to be basically a bomb into the collective, right? Because he felt like it wasn't ethical. There's a nuke that's about to go off. We have no idea if it's going to like explode in flowers or fiery death, but we can just prevent this from happening at any time before it hits 0 on the countdown meter. Let's just see what happens. It's fucking insane.
Who got my MVP for last season for being the voice of reason, any of the lines that he should have to object and say this is completely fucking bonkers and not worth the risk at all, those lines instead go to 7 of 9, who says this is too risky. I am Borg. I'm telling you how this is going to go down, how this could go down. And exactly what you said. If he joins the collection with his 500 years in the future hyper technology, it is going to exponentially increase the and that's its own thing. This fucking mobile emitter with the hypertech from Captain Caveman and Ed Begley Jr. Future's End, like the fact that up to this point, and I don't know if they ever do address it, that the time cops never come back and try to reclaim this wildly powerful technology that should not be in the past is very surprising. this completely removes the doctor's ability to leave sickbay, which means there's no more doctor for the rest of the ship. It is such a wild card of what could happen that it is just it's a real standout moment for how dumb Janeway is going to be about this thing. And like you said, they don't know anything about it, and they're just playing with fire. If only there was just an episode like, oh, I don't know, 2 episodes ago where someone directly confronted Janeway and said, listen, you saved the Borg's life when you struck a deal and got him around species 8472 or whatever, Space Mewtwo's. And then billions of people died when the Borg assimilated my entire culture and fucked up the rest of the Delta Quadrant. And now here she is playing with fire again, about to radically uplift them into 29th century technology. Like, she just, this doesn't fit in. It's stupid. It's completely ignorant of her own past actions. And she's a cardboard cutout that's just there to say, I'm pro-life. Let the baby live. Consequences be damned. 7 and 9, you're gonna be the mommy, and you're gonna like make sure he's good, and you're gonna turn him into a real productive member of the crew. And the rest of my crew is gonna be just honky dory with this, and no one's gonna lift a fucking finger to tell me how terrible and stupid it is. Short of one security guy who ends up in a couple scenes because he's like part of the escort watching the drone when it finally matures. And this guy's face, like half the time, is like, what the fuck is going on? What am I doing here?
Stevie noticed the same guy in the background. He's like, look at that fucking guy. Like, he's doing all the acting in this
What
scene.
the fuck is going on? I'm going to tell everybody. When I get off work, I'm going to go to the mess hall and I'm going to tell everybody about this crazy fucking Frankenstein. They let the thing live. It comes out.
And it looks like a... Remember the 90s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
Yes! I said he looks like a Ninja Turtle.
Yes!
He looks like... He looks like if RoboCop was a Ninja Turtle.
Yes.
Like the front of his face is like tucked into a metallic back of the head. I believe this is the same actor who played Timmy Dipshit Mulcahy.
No, different guy.
Really? So they gave Mulcahy speaking lines, and then I figured that was, because it's a clone of him, right? That's where the biomatter came from that fused. You sure they're separate people?
Yeah, I looked it up because I assumed the same thing. It's actually the same guy who played the Nazi in The Killing Game, like the hardcore holographic Nazi that convinces
the guy who knocked Balan up.
Yeah,
really,
it's the same guy. Yeah, but it's not the guy who plays Ensign Jabroni.
I'm disappointed because this guy, and I guess there's only so much you can do, but like this Borg is just so fucking terrible. This was a very fatiguing episode to watch. I've not seen something this stupid since Concerning Flight. This was a hard one.
He was like if a Ninja Turtle from the mid-90s live action Ninja Turtle movies was crossed with Niles from Seinfeld. Or not from Seinfeld, from
Frasier.
Frasier.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
He talked like Niles from Frasier, and it was so weird. Even his voice tenor sounded so much like that actor whose name unfortunately escapes me, but...
And he looks like he's got a stick up his ass the whole time. He's just super upright. They've got him in this tinfoil bodysuit that looks stupid with some glowing L-wire knockoff Tron lights. And he's just the fucking bee's knees, wouldn't you know it? He's so smart. He, reprograms the warp core, and later on he'll go on to like supercharged shields and weapons, and he's got internal transporters, and like, watch out, Superman. There's a new 10 out of 10 in town. Like,
yeah, he's instantly a Helpy McHelperson. Like, he's friendly with everybody. Like, he says please and thank you in front of Janeway.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's this
kind of raped 7 and 9. It's just she goes to like program him, and he's like, no, I don't want to do what you're saying. Give me my designation, lay some Borg shit on me. And then she's like, we're not Borg. And he's like, yeah. And then she's like, well, here, you can have a little bit of mommy's milk, and I'm going to put my tubes in you. You're going to put your tubes in me. And he's like, oh, okay. Hey, I like this. I want more. And she's like, no, stop. You're hurting. So we go back to whatever that episode that will not be named. she has to break off the connection. He's just too hungry. He's kind of assimilating her somehow, whatever. And they decide they're going to go and get some old engine parts called Borg data cubes. And they're going to slowly feed him information on what Voyager's about, what life in the 24th century is, and wean him slowly into sentience and personality. It's just everything you'd expect. It's garbage. And then suddenly he wants to know, who's my real dad? And Seven's like, oh God, I never wanted to talk about, that guy. It was just a fling, I never. So he deduces like, yeah, I was an accident. I'm not supposed to be here. Mom just got wild at a truck stop and here I am now.
He's going tromping around the ship looking like a bad Power Rangers villain. Like anytime a bunch of putties are gonna come out, it's so by the numbers from this point. And I feel like I'm repeating myself from like a half dozen episodes from season 4 at a minimum. Jerry Ryan does as best she can. Like, she goes out there and she tries to make the face acting work with like subtle emotion of like how this is impacting her, and she's just being asked to do that in service of a plot that's so predictable and pointless, and it's the worst impulses of this is yet another step on the journey of 7 of 9 becoming a real girl nonsense that we have become so tired of.
So I know there's going to be this E-ship guy who gets his eye pulled out and killed.
Yeah, because we got spoiled. You got spoiled on that because of Picard, but like this was obviously a dry run at like an angle that they wanted to go with this character, and then they did this, and they're like, oh, I didn't. Let's actually like make this a thing.
B'Elanna and Tom's bad boy status was already appropriated by Outsider 7 of 9. And now we've kind of made her an insider as well. So what's the next thing we can steal from our pre-existing characters? Of course, B'Elanna's motherhood to all rogue AI. So this is the next iteration of that. And there is some, like you said, there's some good face acting out of her, particularly when he says thank you to her, and it gets her in the feels. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, and the end of the episode too. I would say like the final like 3 minutes where she's deals with the drone sacrificing its life and then kind of like reflecting on that remorse
before the doctor goes in there and rips his chip out of that guy's face.
Yeah, he like loots the fucking corpse. Like, all right, time to get my shit back. You gotta dig that out of your brain. It's like he did it. So
the real star of this show though is dummy Janeway. She is so blind at every turn. It is such a pain to watch her spit these terrible, stupid lines out of her mouth and needlessly endanger the crew. And then she lays out a couple of gems. And there are some strong connections of this to previous episodes. Scorpion, obviously, I've already touched on in that the threat she is posing to wildly upgrading the Borg is the same playing God she did when she saved the Borg from getting their asses kicked by the Space Mewtwo species 8472, whatever. The second, and it really was highlighted for me under this, she lays out the first gem line, which is the Borg are the most destructive force we've ever encountered. Shut the fuck up, Catherine Janeway. Shut your fucking mouth up.
Well, I mean, obviously a lie. You're lying, because if you thought that, then you wouldn't have made a deal, with the Borg to save them from extinction at the hands of species A472.
Why, Arturus, you're completely right. Thank you for joining us on this podcast. Here's the real infuriating one, though. And I quote, "You may have been unexpected, but given time, you'll be a fine addition to the crew." If only those words could have been said about a certain Mr. Tuvix.
Oh.
There's a lot of parallels to the episode Tuvix where you have a wild accident, specifically a transporter accident, fusing crew members together and getting a byproduct that might be dangerous, might be a benefit, but she specifically calls him a new form of life, and that's our mission, is to seek out new life, and blah, 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 blah. And I know we don't like to talk about Tuvix we being the showrunners, but it happened. She murdered him. And yet here she is saying, no, you need to be alive. We're going to tolerate this crazy threat to the entirety of the galaxy and whatever.
Especially after Taryn blew our minds with the fact that they have referenced in episodes like their shared knowledge.
The Vulcan funeral dirges, yeah. So, wouldn't you know it, the Borg do finally find out about this guy, and the transponder that Seven had deactivated, his super future tech had generated another one in the form of a blinky light on his neck or something silly. And we see not a Borg cube, but we see a Borg sphere flying in hot to come check out and see what this new signal is.
So this is like a super sphere. It's not like a jabroni sphere like the one that gets blown up in First Contact. This one apparently got like tactical abilities.
Long range tech.
Yeah, they explain that on camera. They don't just be like have them get jumped by this thing. They briefly explain it's a super sphere, and the inevitable happens. They get into a fight. They start to lose, and the drone, because he's perfect and awesome and a precious boy, decides to beam his Ninja Turtle ass onto the sphere with his own personal teleporter, because he's a Mary Sue. He's the Mary Sue Ninja Turtle. Mm-hmm. There we go. That's an episode title. I finally got one. Mary Sue Ninja Turtle. And basically hijacks the navigation on the sphere and makes it dive into the nebula to have it like crushed. It's a cool CG effect.
Yes, that is the one cool thing in this whole fucking episode, is watching a fucking massive Borg vessel fly into that nebula and get crushed. It is what the Borg cube slamming into planet synth should have been in Picard. Instead, we got cheated into flowers somehow. And the sphere explodes. And everybody's like, oh no. But wait, he's still alive because he's erected a series of force fields around himself, and he's alive and scooting his way out of the nebula somehow, and they pick him up. And the Borg pieces are okay, but the Mulcahy pieces are not. He's got some pretty cool makeup effects going on, like massive bleeding under his skin, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, all right, well, we're going to need to operate on you. And he's like, well, listen, if I'm still alive, they're going to know that I'm here, and they're going to want to chase me forever, and you guys are never going to be safe. I'm sure we are all very familiar with the trope that I'm too dangerous to be around, blah, blah, blah. And I need to die. Just like in Next Gen, all those times that, that guy had to die in Next Gen, and he erects new force fields around himself. The Doctor can't get through, and we get a little try-hard, gut-wrenching scene between him and 7 and 9 as he says, bye-bye, mommy.
It's the best scene in the episode. They try to put some emotion into it, but it's the entire premise up to this point is just so mind-bendingly stupid as to why anyone on the ship would allow this to occur. Like, you think back to the scene where he shows up in engineering, right? This was earlier in the episode. And, like, B'Elanna's just kind of bitchy about, him being there instead of...
Like she do.
Yeah, but, like, not actually concerned that 7 of 9 has brought an experimentally hyper-advanced Borg drone that was born mere hours ago into the nerve center of the, ship's, explosive... incredibly important and sensitive
to be
warp
fair,
core.
To be fair, Joe, was it not B'Elanna Torres herself that put a space gimp sex robot right next to that very warp core?
Yeah, I guess she's kind of not.
Is that not the same B'Elanna Torres that took a fucking mutant salamander, Tom Paris, and put him in an iron lung hooked up to that same warp core before he got loose and shot the joint up?
Even then she knew she wanted to get at that lizard D. She's low key jealous of Janeway.
The warp core in the main engineering on Voyager may as well be a fucking Airbnb. Okay. Visitors can just go there, spend the night, wheeze some plasma, fucking shoot the joint up, call it a night, whatever.
I think the greatest insult that we can give this episode is that we have reached 45 minutes and we're done talking about it.
Yeah,
that
man.
never fucking happens.
Ever. This is as hard as it was for me to come up with 3 bad episodes last season. Like, we're 2 episodes into this one, and already I'm like, this is definitely going on my wall of shame as a terrible fucking episode. To no one's surprise, the Memory Alpha is nothing but glowing about this thing.
Yeah, man. God, you said it, I think, when we reviewed Concerning Flight. Like, they motherfuck themselves so rarely that it takes just some god awful shit for them to have that self-awareness that they made a turd. And for whatever reason, like, it's just filled with praise at every level. There's no awareness whatsoever of like, man, I think we made a boring piece of shit, paint by numbers, 7 of 9 becomes a single mom and episode here where we have to make Janeway into a complete fucking idiot for it to make any sense whatsoever.
This might be the worst portrayal of Janeway we've ever seen. Like, she did more heinous shit in Scorpion, but the motivation and the emotion was there. And even though it was a terrible choice, it was still a choice you could see where she was coming from. This is just reckless and stupid. And again, it's not as
for as bad as Scorpion was, they at least tried to justify her actions.
And there was good conflict between her and Chakotay and whatever. This is just, hey, I got a terrible fucking idea. I'm going to be as 2-dimensional cardboard cutout as I can, and people are just going to go around in this ramrod fucking shit episode. Like, shame on the guys who wrote this. It was fucking terrible. Did you see what the episode was originally supposed to be? It was supposed to be Tom Paris flying around with Borg chasing him, and then he crash lands on a planet, and his arm gets ripped off, and the locals who are tech handy reattach his arm using Borg parts, and it creates like this Franken-Tom, which seems infinitely more interesting. I am always look, you say what you want about Threshold, but like, I'm always down for Tom becoming a monster episodes. They're like, oh no, that's too gory. And I'm like, have you seen the past couple seasons of Voyager? Like, Voyager follows the gore. Voyager cooks Tuvok's brain. Voyager slits people's throats. Voyager
brains people on telepath planets with like vases and shit. Like, yeah.
Oh yeah.
We've had some bloody moments.
Voyager has sexy time Kess psycho crush people and blow blood spurts out of their face holes.
Sexy vampire cat Kess. Oh man, what a classic.
So if you're telling me we can't just rip Tom's episode or arms off for a minute or two, whatever. This is one of the worst Voyager episodes I've ever watched. I watched the clock consistently through this whole thing, and it could not be over soon enough, and I can't say anything nice about it. This was terrible. You hit the nail on the head. I thought it was a Ninja Turtle. That's what I put in. But yeah, this is quintessential Power Rangers villain.
Yep. Yeah, you should have a squad of putties with him. They should all be wiped out by a bunch of teenagers, and then you should get really large and fight a Megazord. That's what he looks like. Right down to stupid lighting.
I want to also be observant of the fact that a while ago you forecast that Voyager does really bad damage to their treatment of the Borg, and I think this is a strong entry to it in that you are completely destroying the scope and as if any scope and scale to the Borg was still left after the space Mewtwo's were one-shotting cubes. Here you have Voyager, and granted they had, Super Saiyan Goku on their end handling the business for him, but, Voyager just completely crushing and destroying a sphere on their own. So I think it's safe to say that the Borg at this point are no longer big bads. They're just other dudes roaming around the galaxy.
They're medium bads. They've turned the tide of cybernetic zombies into medium bad guys,
into clown cars that just roll in and get clowned. So, yeah, we're there. R.I.P. You got anything else to say about this turkey?
No, sir, except to ask, what are we watching next week?
We're going into season 5, episode 3, Extreme Risk, and we got 7 rolling down the hall. There's a very determined looking B'Elanna Torres, and she's got some American Gladiator armor on. To cope with the loss of her Alpha Quadrant Maquis friends, B'Elanna secretly participates in several dangerous holodeck programs. This sounds awesome. That was one of the best part of the Hirogen plotline, was the revelation that all the Maquis had been wiped out and that those Maquis on Voyager were the only remaining living Maquis. And it hit her very hard in a very rich, compressed grieving process with Chakotay. So I think this sounds really cool.
It is a B'Elanna focused episode, and as we have reflected in the past in every other B'Elanna focused episode, they are wild swings at the fences every time. And Roxanne Dawson never leaves anything on the table, and this will not be different, I assure you. So
we had a little bit of spoiler on this one. I know there's some skydiving that's going to go on because of some discussion on the trauma support group
about holodeck physics. Yeah.
And again, how can you really be in danger during it? And I can't shake the thought of someone suspended in the air in a skydiving simulation and then like a floor generating on the ground and then just slamming up into them like some sort of haunted house death trap floor on hydraulics, smushing them into the ceiling. I don't know. Maybe the doctor will force himself onto a view screen and watch it happen. Who knows? He's getting real kinky these days.
All right, man. I look forward to reviewing it with you. And thank you to everybody who listens week in and week out. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next week.